I do today for our little, what do I call these things? Opening acts, right? Is talk a little bit about the comic books that I've been putting up on the wall and so forth. Um, yeah, my wife and I used to be really into comic books. We kind of got caught up in the whole comic book bubble of the 90s, and we'll talk more about that later on. But yeah, we got caught up in it and had a lot of fun with it and sunk a lot of money into it and lost a lot of money, but that's all right. So what I'd first like to do is kind of show you what we've got going on right now. It's only been until recently that I even can show you this, because they were all packed away in the basement, hidden away and so forth. Oh, look, the puppies are coming down. And so I want to show you all this. There's, see all those? There we go. You see all those? Those are all full of comic books. Those are all comic book boxes. And so, yeah, we've got thousands of comic books. And the vast majority of them are utterly worthless, completely worthless. But as you've seen, once in a while we have something that's worth something, and that's kind of fun and so on. So I thought what I'd do is show you the comic books that I have. Ooh, check that out, funky lighting, right? Show you the comic books that I kind of have set for my wall in my studio. So we'll come on up here, and let me show you what we've got. All right, here is Das Studio. I'm going to set you up here. There we go. Okay. So, yeah, I have thousands and thousands of comic books downstairs, but I have a few that I keep here to put on the wall. Now, some of these may be my most valuable comics. I don't know. I suspect among these are among them are definitely among my most valuable. But not all of them I have because they're valuable. Some just look cool and they're old, right? So we got Fantastic Four, number 42. Not valuable, but it's old. All right, the 42nd issue of Fantastic Four. And then we have Spider-Man number 252. So old, well, not necessarily, but it's the first appearance of the black suit. And so that's what makes this valuable. What makes a comic book valuable is things like first appearance of, or origin story, or death, things of that nature. So, for example, this X-Men number 12, this is old, this is valuable. Furthermore, it's the first appearance of Juggernaut. That's what makes this one valuable, is it's a first appearance. And number 12, that ain't bad. Similarly, we have Spider-Man number 41. Yeah, old, but it's the first appearance of Rhino. Okay, so that's what makes this one valuable. Let me pull out some others that are noteworthy. So then let me show you these. We have Vampirella Warren number 1. This is the first appearance of Vampirella. So, first appearance. Now, she doesn't really do much in these particular comics, in these warring comics. She's just kind of a narrator or a host, right? So she's kind of like the Elvira of the comic book. She's just kind of a host. She doesn't really start to get her own story until about number 8. And this one is the origin of Vampirella and her first real story. Is there a board there? Yeah, there's a board. Okay. So that's what makes that one kind of valuable. Then we have just some that are old, right? Action Comics number 199. Well, that's 199. That's not necessarily like a number 1. Yeah, but it's old and it's cool, right? And then these rest are just old and cool. Challengers of the Unknown. We're getting in the Silver Age of comics here. I don't know. There's Silver Age, there's Golden Age, and I think these might be Golden Age. I don't know when Golden and Silver Age come about, but Challengers of the Unknown. We have Greatest Adventures. These are just old and cool looking, right? Mystery in Space. Really schlocky stuff, right? Let's see. We have Army at War. I think this one might actually have something significant-ish to it, but I'm not positive. Continuing on, Journey into Mystery. All these cool names, right? Strange Tales. I mean, it's just every sort of, phrase you can get there. Tales of Suspense. Just old, cool comic books. Journey into Mystery. Then we've got this one. This one's Eagle Comics number 1. Now, you would think Eagle Comics number 1, gosh, and it's old, that must be worth some money. Nah, it's worthless. I got it just because it's a cool cover. Look at that cover. That's there we go. That's kind of awesome. Kind of a cool cover. This one, though, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait to tell you about this one, because if you're taking Business 1050, Foundations of Business Thought, we're going to have a big conversation about this comic book. Okay? So, yeah, those are the comics that I kind of keep up here to swap around and so forth. Like I say, some of them are worth something, some of them aren't. I ought to dig through all those boxes I showed you downstairs and see what else I can come up with, just for the fun of it, because it's fun. All right? Okay, folks, let's get started. All righty. Yeah, it's kind of fun. So, Scott, you're really into this, and you have a whole business around it. And I did at one time. I had a whole business around comic books, but I for a whole variety of reasons, I moved on from that business. Not saying I didn't enjoy it, and not saying I didn't wish I'd kept it up, but then comic books, all those boxes that I showed you there, they were in the basement and hidden. I mean, really tucked away to an inaccessible spot. And so it was only recently that we pulled them out and kind of looked at them again. And yeah, it's when I pulled these things out. So yeah, kind of fun. Like I say, thousands upon thousands of comics, and yet I probably have all of maybe $1,000 of value in there. That's all. Okay. Hey, welcome back from spring break, right? Kind of hard to get going again. I'm with you. I get it. Totally the case. But we have a fun one today. I say that all the time. We have a fun one today. Alienated labor. We're going to be talking primarily, Karl Marx, but we're also going to be bringing in Adam Smith. So those of you that are taking this class and doing the readings, today we are going to discuss both Alienated Labor by Karl Marx, as well as On Labor by Adam Smith. We're going to cover those two readings. Now, before I go on, I want to make a special request. The other reading is Mike Lefebvre, Steelworker. Please read Mike Lefebvre, Steelworker. You will be glad you did. It's an incredible piece. It's an interview. So Studs Terkel is the interviewer, and he's interviewing Mike Lefebvre, a steelworker. And so it's really easy to read. It was done back in the 70s. Mike Lefebvre is a philosopher. He's not a steelworker. He's a philosopher. But he is incredible. So I'm going to put here, please read Mike Lefebvre, Steelworker. You will be really glad you did, and it'll make for a better conversation on Wednesday. You know, I know that you don't do all the readings, and you don't need to. I'm just going to say it, right? I'm hoping that these conversations can really help kind of point you in the right direction. So when you have questions or you're not sure about something, you can then refer to the reading, find the section that you're like, hey, what did he mean by, you know, Sigvaldi and, you know, so forth. And same thing goes with Alienated Labor and On Labor, which we're going to talk about today. You're going to have a really good understanding of what Karl Marx and Adam Smith are talking about, and you can go back and reference the readings if you have any questions. Mike Lefebvre, though, I really want to ask you to read that one. You'll be glad you did. Okay, so let's get started. Hey, it looks like we got folks joining us. That is fantastic, okay? All right, let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to go ahead and get my little marker, highlighter here. Okay, you guys know who Karl Marx is. That's no secret, right? Karl Marx is the dude who you are required by the laws of capitalism to despise. Oh. You know, here's the thing, guys. Propaganda. Propaganda works both ways. What this course is about is critical thinking, among other things. And when we say capitalism is great, it's wonderful, it's the best system in the world, nothing can beat capitalism, which, by the way, I'm a big fan of capitalism. Big fan. But when we say, therefore, we can never question it. We can never question it. La, 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 la. No, that's not critical thinking. Capitalism, as great of a system as it is, has real problems. Real problems. And Karl Marx has some ideas on what we can do about those problems. And incidentally, so does Adam Smith, and we're going to talk about that. So we want to explore what capitalism is all about and how the ideas of Karl Marx can help us. And as you know from a previous lecture, we've already explored, you know, when we asked America, is it capitalist or socialist? We said yes. Right? It's a capitalist society, but we have a lot of socialist aspects to our system. And that's because, in the words of David Potter, we found that, you know what, we're a lot more interested in equality and democracy and access to wealth and growing of wealth and democracy in our economic system than we are in strict theory. So we've created a hybrid system, which, by the way, every system is a hybrid system. But we want to understand what Karl Marx is talking about and what he's concerned about. Okay, so let's, wrong button. We'll hit this button. Okay, now I'm going to get myself out of the way here. Not that one. I can get out of the way a little bit there. All right, so we have talked about the 5 fundamental elements of capitalism: profit motive, private wealth and capital, free market, laissez-faire, invisible hand. What I'm going to do is kind of list under this bad boy right here, kind of all the things of why this is wonderful. But then I'm also going to list, well, the drawback of these things. All right. So let me show you what we're talking about. Oh, heavens. I always get that mixed up. Okay. Profit motive. Constant progression and improvement of the current state. Yes, profit motive says never be satisfied with the status quo, never be satisfied with your current state, always improve, continuous improvement, constant progression, get more happiness, more, job security, get more flexibility, get more autonomy, all kinds of things, right? And we like that. Profit motive is a big driver in my life. I'm very fond of the saying that I'm better today than I was yesterday, but not as good as I will be tomorrow. Classic profit motive, okay? Well, there is a drawback, though. That means constant dissatisfaction with the current state, the state in which we currently exist and have always existed and will always exist. All right, let me explain. You live in the now. You always live in the now. You have always lived in the now, and you will always live in the now. And the profit motive teaches us that you are not happy with the now. You want more. Okay? So when I say I'm better than I was yesterday, but not as good as I'll be tomorrow, not as good as I will be tomorrow is my now, which means I am in a perpetual state of dissatisfaction with the now, the state in which I always exist. That's harsh. That's harsh. Okay? All right, what about private wealth, capital? Investment of wealth brings society, benefits society as a whole, in the form of jobs, taxes, access to capital. Yes. Access to capital is the secret. Okay? So by making capital, accessible to folks and so forth, really builds industry, builds jobs, builds the economy, builds opportunity. Well, yeah. But investment of wealth creates disproportionate wealth, power, and privilege for a very small minority of the labor, minority of the labor of the majority. Point is, the saying, you need money to make money? Wealth begets wealth. Wealth really, truly does beget wealth. When you become wealthy at a certain stage, it's almost self-perpetuating. It just builds wealth upon wealth upon wealth. You just sleeping at night because of your investments and so forth of your private capital, and you've made $14 million while you slept during the night. You don't need to work. Wealth begets wealth. Whereas you and me, we need to work. Right? Well, how many hours are there in the day? Well, 24. Well, you can't work all 24 hours. So, all right, I'll work 10 to 12 hours, right? 10 to 12 hours. I'll never build wealth that way. And so, yeah, this concept of wealth really does create the have and the have-nots, the one percenters, right? Okay, let's continue on. A free market encourages innovation, which delivers new features, better quality, lower prices. Yes, free market is awesome. Competition is awesome. The only reason we have really cool gear like this and affordably is because of the free market, of competition. They're going to deliver more features, higher quality, lower price, all that stuff, okay? We live in a pretty fan-freaking-tastic society because stuff that normally used to cost a ton of money is like really high quality and awesome and cheap. Okay, well, there's a problem here though. Creates contrived wants to help keep people purchasing. Prices some people out of the market for basic needs. All right, let's talk about contrived wants. This afternoon, I'm going to go to Pictureline. Pictureline is where I get all my gear for my videos and so forth. And I'm going to buy a light. It's a $150 light. I don't need it. I want it. Now, we're going to talk more about contrived wants later on when we talk about a consumer economy. Yeah, Adam? All right, right. It's a great place. And I also made the commitment that when I buy stuff for my studio, all this gear, I buy local. That's my way of helping the local economy. So yeah, I'm going to go to Pictureline to get a light that I could get on Amazon, but Pictureline. Anyway, we're going to talk more about contrived wants, but what it basically means is we need to keep buying, man. This free market, we need to keep buying. And furthermore, prices some people out of the market for basic needs. So I'll give you an example. Internet has become a basic need. It is. The internet has become a basic need. The COVID pandemic has taught us that there's a digital divide, that a lot of kids don't have internet. And so how were they doing school? I'm not making this up. Their parents would drive them to a McDonald's parking lot, and they would sit in a parking lot with a school loan tablet to do their classes. Internet has become indispensable in getting jobs and so on and so forth. But the problem is the free market we've added a lot of stuff onto the internet that we don't necessarily need, but it's awesome and cool. Streaming and video and all this sort of stuff. It's expensive. It's expensive. Now, yeah, maybe you and I can afford $100 a month, but not everybody can afford $100 a month. And by the way, it's more than that. So yeah, kind of prices some people out of the market. All right, let's come down here to Laissez Faire. All right, Laissez Faire enables a natural, harmonious, and self-regulating system to work efficiently. There's plenty of things that I think are over-regulated. Plenty of things that are over-regulated. And when you over-regulate it, you create artificial barriers and obstacles that stifle innovation and stifle growth. So we like laissez-faire. On the other hand, a natural system is amoral and so lacks a moral compass and devalues that which makes us human. We are going to talk about that today. But here's the thing. Natural systems don't care about you. They don't care. They don't care. And natural systems are totally blind to the idea of right and wrong. They are amoral, right? Which means layoffs. Sure, fun, go ahead. Doesn't matter. Exploitation of workers. Fine. It works just fine. There's all kinds of things that it's like, hold on, that's wrong. No. It's natural, therefore amoral, and there's no right or wrong, so we can totally do it, right? Okay, last one, the invisible hand. Allows value to flow freely where it can create further value, and so on and so forth, regardless of the intent of the value created, right? It's just like everybody benefits. I'm going to go to Picture Line and I'm going to spend $150 on a light I don't need. Well, but then I'm employing people at Picture Line. I'm also employing the people who made the light. I'm employing the people who drove the trucks that get all get the light from the producer to the distributor and then the retailer. I'm supporting the farmers who feed all these people. I'm supporting the roads. I'm supporting all that stuff, right? Invisible hand. On the other hand, and I'll read this one, not all value creation is rewarded equally, neither monetarily or in terms of influence. So, for example, I want to be really, really clear on this, guys, because I'm not complaining. I love my job. I love this. This is awesome. I am very happy and content. Okay? I'm going to use it as an example as a teacher for this, but don't think that I don't love my job. A football player makes millions of dollars a year, whereas a teacher makes $40,000 or $50,000 a year. Okay? Well, now, who is creating more value to society? A teacher creates more value to society. A teacher has more influence on society, has more influence on the morals and ethics and the critical thinking skills and the actual hands-on and thinking skills of the students. And these skills can then go on and create incredible value. Why does the football player make more? Because the football player does not create more social value, but creates a lot more economic value. Okay? The football player sells advertising, puts butts in seats, and sells jerseys, and sells endorsements, and all kinds of stuff. The economic value of a football player is astronomical. Therefore, we pay them a lot because they're providing an economic value. Whereas your high school teachers don't provide economic value. As a matter of fact, they are a cost center. We pay taxes to pay them. And so we want to keep that as low as we can because we want to keep our taxes low. But the social value they're creating is much higher. Invisible hand doesn't recognize any of that. It just goes by economic value. Okay, so with all that, let's talk about Karl Marx and his take on all this. Now, I'm going to talk about bakery for a moment, and this video is going to go on as well as another bakery. And I'd love to see some comments and so forth. And I'm just going to, we've already had some folks chime in and say hello and so forth. Not normally what I reward, but I want to make sure you guys, you know, get some kudos for having jumped in and so forth. Anyway, let's come back to our bakery. You see these individuals, a lot of gals, there's some guys in here too. They're baking together. They're mixing it by hand, right? They're using their knowledge of baking to, you know, set up the ingredients and their skill in kneading the bread. They're doing it together. This is a social endeavor that we see going on. They're trading stories. Different generations are doing it together. We have young kids, we have parents, we have grandparents. They're sharing their skills. They're sharing their love of baking. They're also baking this for the community, and they go outside and they put it in these ovens and so forth. And then while it's baking, they do, you know, celebrations, they're doing dances. This is a community act. Yes, totally baking at home, Mauricio, absolutely, right? And as a result, this is a social endeavor, right? Okay. Now, let's then look at this. Now we're baking in a factory, okay? And as you see, the flour goes up the conveyor belt, and these sods, they just load the flour, load the flour. This guy, he dumps the flour. This guy pushes a button. Ooh, check it out. He pushed 2 buttons at the same time. Oh yeah, baby, he's got skills. He pushed 2 buttons at the same time. But that's about all you need for human beings, because now the bread goes along. This guy, this old man, he didn't want to be doing this when he retired, but you know what? He has to make sure the bread is still going up. And it goes around this thing, and it gets put into a ball, and it gets kneaded, and then it goes into another machine, and it gets put into the who's em of what's it's, the pans, right? And it gets put into an oven, and it gets baked in the oven. Oh, now we have a human being again. Isn't that nice? He took them out of the oven and dumped them out here, okay? So this is what concerns Karl Marx, all right? We're going to use the example of baking as we talk about Karl Marx's philosophy, all right? First of all, let's talk about what he calls the species essence of what it means to be human, all right? Let's check this out. Man is a creature of his species, that he is a conscious being, that he is able to direct his life, activity, and that he will treat his own life as a subject matter and as an object of his own determination. All right, what? He's saying, hey, listen, we're conscious of our lives. We're conscious of our aspirations, and we want autonomy in employing our skills and energies and faculties toward a direction that gives us meaning and worth, okay? Adrian says, looks like mass profit, you know, one for the entertainment tradition. Yes, totally, right? Okay, so Karl Marx is talking about we as people, we want to have self-determination and aspiration toward a life that we want to inhabit, right? Alienated labor reverses this relationship. Man, the self-conscious being, turns his chief activity, labor, which should express his profound essence, into a mere means of physical existence. Okay, this is what he's talking about. We normally, he says, our species essence is to envision a life, envision just this wonderful existence. And we employ our faculties and our skills and our work to attaining this, to, you know, expressing ourselves through our labor and to living a fulfilled life through labor, right? Where he says, but all this industrialization and so forth, all of a sudden, we have no interest in what you want to become. All we want to know is, can you push that button? Can you lift that bale? Can you move that line down the line, right? All your labor is a means of existence, just to survive, just for your physical existence, okay? Now, let me, you know, and this isn't the case with all of you. It is not the case with all of you. But I am going to speculate, I am going to posit that you will understand this, that you will get it, that you have at one point or another had a job like this. A job in which you have no interest in the mission of the company. You don't care about the product they're making. You don't really care about what your contribution is. You just show up to work, punch the clock, do your job, watch the clock to finally get to when it's over, punch and get out, and hopefully not think about work again for the weekend, because it's just a job for the money. It's just a job for the money. Have you had a job like that? I sure have. I've had jobs where it's just like, yeah, Alma, yeah, okay, Amos, all right, very good. So Alma and Adrian, yeah. Adrian, I've heard Amazon is rough. I mean, I'm a big fan of the service, but I've heard working there, you need to grow 2 or 3 butts so you can get them all kicked. That's what I've heard, right? Scott, your first one at Taco Bell. By the way, I'm putting some of these for real world examples too, right? Call centers, Adam. Holy hell, yes. Yes, okay? Yeah, some other great ones there. Damien, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. These are jobs that aren't fulfilling ourselves and we're like, oh, I love what I do. No, man. It's Adam, holy hell, right? So bad, right? They pay well, but sometimes pay isn't enough, right? I've heard it's, okay, I'm not going to keep going on it. You guys get the idea, right? So what Karl Marx is saying is we weren't put on this frickin' planet to spend the majority of our waking time at a job that kills us slowly on the inside. He has issue with this, okay? So, by the way, you guys, and I'm going to go ahead and take this up, and we've had some real world examples. Boom. We've got our first one. The timestamp for everyone is 10:28. So after the lecture, send me an email that says 10:28. And as always, I'll take care of you. Thank you, Damien. So, wow, Adrian, been there since 15, so that's been your main job. Amazon, yeah, it's rough. It's rough, okay? So, Karl Marx is your friend when we feel this way. That I just feel like I'm spending my whole life doing this and I don't care about it. And it's doing nothing to fulfill me. And I can't quit because I need the money. I am a slave to the system. Karl Marx feels you, baby. So let's talk about how he views this, all right? He says we're really alienated we're alienated in 4 different ways, right? 4 ways. First of all, he says we're alienated from the product. So let's talk about what I mean from alienated from the product. Now, those ladies that we saw baking and so forth, they're very close to the product. You know, they're messing with it. They're getting into it. They're making decisions. They're choosing the ingredients. They're baking it with, the special ingredient is love. All that sort of stuff, right? They imbue the product, the bread, with themselves. Whereas somebody who's just pushing a button is just pushing a button, man. This dude here couldn't be further from the bread. He's not smelling bread. He's not feeling the bread. He's not enjoying the texture. He's not meditating as he, therapeutically needs it. He's hearing loud machinery. He's smelling grease, and he's feeling the heat of the machine, and he's just pushing buttons, right? Okay. A baker makes all the profit. Someone pushing a button only makes a tiny portion of the profit. So this poor sod right here, he's making, $3.33 an hour like Scott was, right? $3.33 an hour. He's just making a little bit of money. The person who's making the money is the one who owns that machine. Capital makes the money. Now, capital will pay you just enough to keep you happy. We'll talk about, well, not happy, keep you from leaving. We'll talk about that here in a moment. It's actually Adam Smith who will bring that up. But you're not going to get rich. that sod right there, he's not getting rich. So he's alienated from the product because he's not imbuing the product with himself. He's not feeling, he's not touching it, he's not experiencing it, and it is not experiencing his skill and know-how. And furthermore, he's not making any money on this, right? He's just working for the man. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's see. Oh, Isabel, my husband just got a job at the warehouse there. No, it's not bad, Isabel. Good for your husband. But your husband can help change things. All right, let's keep going. I love that, though. And remind me later on, we'll put on a real-world example there. Okay, so we also have alienation from one's own labor, okay? The baker is involved in every step of the process and practicing their craft, using it and doing things and so forth. I'm experiencing and practicing my craft right now, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it, okay? Whereas the worker is doing just one small thing repetitively. I push buttons. I push 2 buttons. Ooh, I push 2 buttons. That's all that poor guy is doing. He's pushing a button. You cannot make a connection between I push these 2 buttons and make bread, right? So you don't see yourself in the end product. You're separated from the product. They're just selling their mechanical labor for wages. They are not creating a product through which they can express themselves. All right, these folks here. And in many cases, they can't even afford the product that they are making, right? Now, in the case of bread, that may not be the case, but trust me, there are people out there who are making watches, who are making cars, who are making, this sort of stuff, who can't afford it. So you're making something that you can't then buy because you can't afford to pay the powers that be, the man, the money. It's nuts, right? Okay. So alienated from the labor, alienated, okay? We're also alienated from others, okay? Since the workers are not connected to the product in a meaningful way, they are not connected with one another in a way that gives them meaning and purpose in the community, right? It's hard to get a lot of pride in saying, I run a kneading machine versus I am a baker. When you say I am a baker, you establish yourself and your value to the community. All right? I'm a baker. I am a police officer. I am a teacher. I am these are things that say who you are in relation to society and others and the value that you bring. Versus when you say, I'm a senior internal communications officer. What? Which is what I was. What are you? Well, I'm, I'm a, receivables invoice auditor. What? Yeah, I don't know who you are. I don't know how to relate with you, right? But then here's another thing. This put workers at odds with one another, so they look out for themselves rather than the collective. So we've got all these people in this bakery workshop. They're not interested in building relationships and so on and so forth. They just want to keep their heads down so that when layoffs come, they're not hit, right? There's this sort of eat or be eaten competitiveness. Now, in some industries, this is really cool and actually serves a good purpose. Like if you're in sales, internal competitiveness is actually can be a good thing. I'm not saying it is always. I'm saying it can be a good thing. But when we're just workers, when we're just cogs in a factory or at Amazon or Taco Bell or whatever I was doing and so forth, it's like you're not working for the mission of the company and you're not working for the welfare of the collective. You're just like, hey, I'm just here to make my money and stay out of trouble. That's all I want. So we're alienated from others, okay? But then the fourth one that Karl Marx is concerned about is we're alienated from ourselves, right? As he says, labor fulfills our species' essence to create and express ourselves in our accomplishments. I'm a big believer in that, folks. I really enjoy creating and expressing myself through those creations. But capitalism robs workers of their species' essence, that thing that makes them human. They are denied the opportunity to create, innovate, critically analyze, problem solve, and affect an outcome. This person here, let's see if I can get that video to go again. They're not creating, they're not problem solving, they're not critically analyzing, they're not affecting an outcome. They're just going through this mechanical motion for 10 hours a day. We don't even see their face because they don't have a face and they're even faceless to themselves, okay? And that's part of what you have not enjoyed in these jobs that we've talked about is I have, no one listens to me, no one cares, the system is screwed up, I point it out and they say, shut up. Fine, I'll just do it the way you say to do it, but I can't really express myself in this job, okay? These are the things that Adam Smith, that Karl Marx is concerned about, all right? Now, by the way, with all the conversation we've been having here in the comments and so forth, in the chat, yeah, we're going to do another 10-day. You guys have been fantastic. I really like that. Okay? So, but that's all Karl Marx, the communist bastard. Who cares about Karl Marx? What does he know? Well, there's this dude named Adam Smith, too. Adam Smith is the father of capitalism, right? He's the one who wrote Wealth of Nation, came up with the idea of the invisible hand. He is the father of modern economics. Adam Smith has been sanctified and canonized by every Western power you can imagine. But you know what? Adam Smith agrees with Marx. Let's see what he says. Check this out. There's a lot here, but it's worth reading. The man whose whole life is spent in performing a few simple operations, of which the effects, too, are perhaps always the same or very nearly the same, has no occasion to exert his understanding or to exercise his invention in finding expedients for removing difficulties which never occur. All right, what did he just say? He says, if you're in a job where you're just doing the same thing over and over and over and over, you're just a factory line worker like those people we saw in the bakery, you never have the opportunity to problem solve. You never have the opportunity to find efficiencies. You never have the opportunity to innovate, to be creative. We already said this. Karl Marx already said this. Karl Marx already said this. Actually, Karl Marx said it after Adam Smith. But the point is, Karl Marx is saying that if you're just going through the motions, you don't really get to express yourself in a meaningful way. Now, let's look at the consequence. He naturally loses, therefore, the habit of such exertion and generally becomes as stupid and ignorant as it is possible for a human creature to become. Holy hell, people. Adam Smith just said that if you don't use your brain and problem solve and innovate and find efficiencies and really get into the work intellectually and emotionally, you will lose the ability to get into the work intellectually and emotionally, and you will become as stupid and ignorant as it is possible for a human creature to become. Whoa! But it gets better. The torpor of his mind renders him not only incapable of relishing or bearing a part in any rational conversation. In other words, he's an idiot and he can't even have a rational conversation with this guy, but of conceiving any generous, noble, or tender statement, and consequently of forming any just judgment concerning many, if even the ordinary duties of private life. Wow. I mean, wow. He just said, listen, if this person goes on and lives like this, they'll be incapable of even having a rational conversation. They'll be idiots in terms of humanity and society. They won't have any tender sentiment, can't even form a just judgment concerning even the ordinary duties of private life. And we have these people out voting. Okay? He's really concerned that this degrades humans to an apocalyptic degree. Okay? Let's see. Now, Mauricio says, I think that's why many companies offer more free education now. Issues workers don't take advantage of it. This is true. They'd rather go home and play video games, watch TV. Yeah, and yes, I agree, Adam. That is a fantastic point. Yes, we want this stimulation, okay? So, this is Adam Smith. Now, this is a problem. This is a big problem. What Karl Marx just described as alienation, labor, self, others, things like that, the product, Adam Smith is backing up here. Here's the problem. He says, you're screwed. You're screwed, workers. It's just, we're in trouble. All right? He says the masters are always going to prevail. All right? Workers, you want more autonomy. You want to express yourself more. You want more responsibility. You want to make decisions on how you approach a problem. You want to innovate. You want to create, and so forth. Whereas the masters are like, no. You're just a piece of machinery. And I need you to do, as a piece of machinery, exactly what I've told you to do as a piece of machinery. Okay? Workers are, the masters will always prevail. Adam Smith has some reasons for this. Let's look at them. The workmen desire to get as much, the masters to give as little as possible. So, you know this. As an employee, in theory, and I used to be like this, it's just natural. I want to do as little work as possible for as much pay as possible. Since I'm in a self-actualized role now, I don't feel that way. But when I'm not in a self-actualized role, I want to do as little work as possible for as much pay and benefits as possible. Conversely, the masters, the capital owners, the bosses want to pay as little as possible while getting as much work out of you as possible. All right? The former, the workmen, are disposed to combine in order to raise wages, the latter in order to lower wages, the wages of labor. It is not, however, difficult to foresee which of these two parties must, upon all ordinary occasions, have the advantage in the dispute and force the other into compliance with their terms. So who's going to win? The masters. This is why. First of all, back in this day, masters, being fewer in number, can combine much more easily. Okay, let's talk about this. First of all, it was not as illegal then as it is now to get together and make agreements across industries and so forth. This is before the days of the monopoly busters and so forth, right? You know, steel and railroad and fuel and oil, all this stuff, they were all combined, right? And they made deals and they created huge monopolies. Well, it's not hard to create a monopoly when you're one of the masters, when you're capital. Because check this out. First of all, there's not many of them. There's not a whole lot of them. Fewer in number, right? They have another advantage. They're all white men. They all have the same values. They all have the same objectives. They all have the same responsibilities. They all have the same goals. They all have the same education from the same Ivy League schools. They all have the same politicians in their pockets. It's not hard for a bunch of old white men to get together and agree on something that's in their collective best interest. And back then, yeah, they could do that. Oh, but the workers could do that too, right? Wrong. The law, besides, authorizes, or at least does not prohibit, the employer's combination, while it prohibits those of the workmen. Oh yeah, laissez-faire is great for yourself, but when it comes to the employees, I want to regulate the hell out of them. Back in this day, you could not unionize. You could not organize. You could not do collective bargaining. You could not strike. You could not do any of these things without having the royal crap beaten out of you by the police, which the owners owned, okay? So here's the problem. You've got the very few in number old white males getting together and planning and organizing, but all these workers cannot get together, plan, and organize. It's illegal, and we'll beat them if they do. Yeah, strike busters, exactly, Scott. But now here's another problem. There's a lot of workers, and they are not all old white males. We've got male, we've got female, we've got young, we've got old, we have educated, we have uneducated, we have people from the East, we have people from the West, we have people in the Midwest, we have people from the South, we have white, we have Latino, we have African American, we have immigrant, we have Asian, you name it, everything. You think they're all going to get in a room together and agree? Not a chance. Not a chance. And the powers that be love this. They love the fact that the rabble, the masses, cannot get together and agree. First of all, they can't even get together logistically or legally. And even if they could, there's no way they're going to agree on a common objective, right? So, yeah. And yeah, mafia was very much involved in those original unions. So that's another reason why the masters will always prevail. Third, let's say we do go on strike. Let's say there is a disagreement and we manage to go on strike. All right. How's that going to work out?
In all such disputes, the masters can hold out much longer. A landlord, a farmer, a master manufacturer, or a merchant, though they did not employ a single workman, could generally live a year or two upon the stocks, your savings and your assets, which they have already acquired. Many workmen could not subsist a week. Few could subsist a month, and scarce any a year without employment. In the long run, the workman may be as necessary to his master as the master to him, but the necessity is not so immediate. Yes. So, we have some folks, Amazon, who was it? Amazon, Adrian, Amazon. Not loving it. Hard work. Not feeling treated necessarily right. Harsh culture. So Adrian could say, well, I'm going to quit. Amazon wouldn't notice a thing. They wouldn't notice a thing. Adrian's contribution, and Adrian, I'm just using you as an example. I've been here before too. I used to work for FedEx. Actually, I liked FedEx. I used to work for UPS. I did not like UPS. Anyway, they wouldn't notice a thing. I wouldn't notice a thing. On the other hand, Adrian would really notice a lot because he needs the money. He's got bills to pay. He has rent. He has, phone bills. He needs to pay school so I can get my money to buy things that I don't need. Thank you, Adrian. He needs the money, and he doesn't have a ton of savings. He doesn't have a house with equity in it and all that sort of stuff. So he's kind of stuck. Alma says, no specialty, so people easily to replace. Yeah. And guys, I am going to just come out and say, some people are more difficult to replace than others. However, everybody is replaceable. Everybody is replaceable. And even if you're in a profession where you think that you're not replaceable, things come around where you find out, yeah, don't kid yourself. You really need that light. I really do. I'll show it to you guys. I'll show it to you guys in my next opening act, because there's a reason I'm getting it. I'll show you. Right? Okay. So, yeah. Here's the thing that I really want to ask you to embrace. Both Adam Smith and Marx, they agree on the idea of alienation of labor and the power of those in power, and they express them in very similar terms. They disagree on the solution. Okay, they disagree on the solution. Where Adam Smith might say, oh, we need more laissez faire, we need more open markets and so forth. Karl Marx was very much, we need to seize the means of production and put in place more controls and more regulations. So it's a constant battle between these two. Generally in the past, I would say that Adam Smith would represent the conservative side of our economic system, where Karl Marx would represent more of the progressive side. Today, I think conservatives have lost their way, and I think progressives are at risk of losing their way. I think it kind of goes back and forth on who's more lost. But I think today, conservatives, you ask your average conservative today who Adam Smith is and what he taught about capitalism, and they'd say, what? They've kind of forgotten, right? But on the other hand, I'm not interested in going all the way to Karl Marx. I'm interested in the in-between. And the problem with the in-between is the in-between where I want to be right there and where we are is messy. Messy. It takes negotiation, it takes compromise, it takes a functioning government, and I have kind of forgotten the last time we had a functioning government. I was in my 20s back then. All right. So, my friends, here's a quote that I'd like to end on from Carl Sagan. One of the saddest lessons of history is this: if we've been bamboozled long enough, we tend to reject any evidence of the bamboozle. We're no longer interested in finding out the truth. The bamboozle has captured us. It's simply too painful to acknowledge, even to ourselves, that we've been taken. Once you give a charlatan power over you, you almost never get it back. And Mauricio, I agree, let's all be friends, all right? Reject the bamboozle that capitalism is perfect and doesn't need to be fixed. Reject the bamboozle that Karl Marx is evil and wants us all to live under the, onerous rule of a despot, right? That's not true. On the other hand, when people say we need to go to pure socialism, question that. But when people say we need to go to pure capitalism, an amoral natural system, question that. The answer is in the middle, okay? The answer is in the middle. We need more centrists. We need more centrists. All right. Stop repeating yourself. You're repeating everything. You're repeating everything. I'm not repeating everything. You're repeating yourself. You're repeating yourself. What movie reference is that? Again, another real world. That'll be a past lecture reference. Guys, great job. All right. You got 3 10s. That's incredible. You've done very well. Thank you very much. A reminder, read Mike Lefebvre, Steelworker. You'll be really glad you did, and it'll make Wednesday's lecture a lot more fun, okay? As per usual, I'll stick around for a moment to see if you have any questions or comments. But in the meantime, welcome back from spring break. Have a great rest of your Monday and a great week, all right? We'll talk to you later.